Now we're going to start English, or grammar, writing, whatever we call it. So go ahead, make sure you have your English notebook out. You should be open to a clean page, so we're starting a new one. Remember, please use the back so that you don't run out of space. And the title for today's lesson is Linking Verbs. Okay, so make sure you write the title of today's lesson, which is Linking Verbs, and the date. It is March 31st, 2020. So, first of all, what is a linking verb? We've learned about main verbs, we've learned about action verbs, we've learned about helping verbs. Now we're going to talk about linking verbs. So, a linking verb. What does it do? It links or connects. Remember, if I put a word, if you see the word or followed by a word in commas, that means that is a synonym. So it links or connects the subject of a sentence So it links the subject of a sentence to a noun, pronoun, and examples of pronouns are I, me, my, she, her, he, him, they, them, etc., which means there's more than that. But those are examples of pronouns since we haven't quite learned about those yet. So it links the subject of a sentence to a noun, pronoun, or adjective that describes the subject. Okay, so a linking verb links the subject of the sentence, the person or thing that is the main, the person or thing that the sentence is about, to another noun, a pronoun, or an adjective that describes that subject. So, for example, the man is wise. Okay? So we have the subject, man, and then we have the verb is, and it's saying this is linking man to this adjective wise. That means he's smart. He knows what he's doing. So, we know that is, we learned in the last lesson that is can be used as a helping verb. But in this case, it is not a helping verb because helping verbs have to have a main verb after them. Like the man is swimming. Well, swimming is the main verb, so is would be a helping verb. But since there is no verb after this word is, that means in this case, it is a linking verb. Linking verbs are most often, not always, forms of be. Remember, the forms of be are is, am, was, were, or are, or will. These are the forms of be. They are linking verbs are most often forms of be. They are not always. Other linking verbs are look, seem, appear, become, feel, smell, and taste. So for example, the horse looks strong. The subject of the sentence is horse. That is who or what the sentence is mainly about. The verb is looks, but it's a linking verb because we're not saying that he's looking. We're just looking at it and saying, oh, it looks as in it seems strong. And then we have the adjective strong. We have no main verb following the word looks, so that means it is a linking verb. Okay, go ahead and open up your packet and look at the sheet, the anchor chart that looks like this, where we have a list of helping verbs and a list of linking verbs. Now, these are not every single helping and linking verb, but we can see at the top, under helping verbs, it tells us what they are. A helping verb helps the main verb describe the action. That means any of these, in order to be a helping verb, have to be followed by an action verb. Okay? So they always come before, go ahead and write this on your anchor chart, always come before an action verb, because they help that action verb to tell what or when something is happening. Now, a linking verb, they are verbs by themselves. That means they will not have an action verb after. They will have another noun, a pronoun, or an adjective. Most of the time you'll see it followed by an adjective. So that's how you can tell the difference. Helping verbs always come right before a main verb, an action verb, and linking verbs are by themselves. So we would say, I am cold, or she is being mean, or they seem nice, or we are hungry. Do you see how all of those sentences I just said, the helping verb is followed by an adjective or a word that describes. Whereas if it's a helping verb, I would say, I am going to the store. Or, we could go to the park. Or, oh gosh, I can't think of one for have off the top of my head, but you get the picture. Helping verbs are always followed by an action verb. Linking verbs are by themselves, and they are followed by, most likely what we will see is an adjective, but they can also be followed by nouns or pronouns. Okay, go ahead and put that away and go back to your notes. Okay, so remember way back when we learned about subject-verb agreement, which is where if you have a plural subject, then your verb must work with that plural subject, or if you have a singular subject, then that verb must work with the singular subject by adding or not adding an S, and also verb tense, where you have to use past tense or present tense or future tense verbs to show when something happened. Well, the same goes for linking verbs. Present tense linking verbs must agree with the subject. That means whatever the subject is, that linking verb has to agree. So, I would say, for example, she is hungry. So I have she, my subject, I have my linking verb is, and I have my adjective hungry. It's saying that she is hungry. Now, if I wanted to talk about a group of people, this is a singular subject. We're talking about one girl. Now, if I want to talk about a group of girls, I would say the girls are hungry. I have more than one girl, so I have to say are hungry instead of is. It would not sound right if I said the girls is hungry. Now, if I wanted to say I would have to say I am hungry. My subject is I, and we have the word am. I cannot say I is hungry. I cannot say I are hungry. I have to say I am hungry. So you have to make sure that your subject in the present, that your present tense linking verb agrees with the subject. Now remember, the subject-verb agreement really only happens in present tense. Not only do you have to watch out for subject-verb agreement in the present tense, I'm going to go ahead and erase this, so if I'm going too fast and you need to, go ahead and pause and write it, and then we will move on. Okay, I just misspoke, because not only do present tense linking verbs have to agree, but also present tense and past tense. So go ahead and draw a caret and put present tense and then add and past tense linking verbs must agree with the subject, because, for example, this was an example of the present tense. This is all happening right now. She is hungry right now. The girls are hungry right now. I am hungry right now. But if you're trying to say past tense, if you use the same subject as before, but you meant yesterday. If you have a singular subject, you would say she was hungry. We have our singular subject she. We have our past tense linking verb was. And then we have our adjective. It links she with hungry. Now, if I wanted to say the girls, so that's a plural subject, I would say the girls were hungry. I have a plural subject, and I have the past tense linking verb for a plural subject. The girls were hungry. I couldn't say the girls was hungry. Now if I wanted to say I, well, I does the same thing as a singular subject. I was hungry. Now you may be thinking, well, that's a singular subject, so that works. But what if I'm talking about one person and I say you? Then it would be you were hungry. So even if I'm only talking about one person, I'm talking to one of you right now. You were hungry. If I'm talking to one of you or if I'm talking to all of you, were always goes with you and was always goes with I. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to get out your guided practice sheet. So go ahead, open up your packet, open past the anchor chart, and open to this first page of the guided practice. It has this little fluffy monster on it, and it's called helping versus linking verbs. So what we're going to do on the front is we are going to look through this sheet, and we have to figure out whether these words are being used as helping verbs or linking verbs. First, let's read all the directions together. So go ahead and read in your head while I read out loud. Most people think of verbs as action words, and they are. Some common action verbs are run, talk, walk, say, look, and sing. We can do all of those things. There are other less known verbs that don't show action. They help the other words in a sentence fit together. Now, whether those are nouns and adjectives or nouns and more verbs, that's what tells us whether they are helping or linking verbs. So helping verbs. We already know this, but let's go through it again. Helping verbs work with action verbs to add meaning to them. They tell expectation, obligation, probability, potential, or necessity. Now that means how much it needs to be done, whether it will happen or not, how likely it is to happen, does it have to happen, or when will it happen. For example, they are is, has, does, can, could, must, be, are, have, do, will, would, may, been, am, had, did, shall, should, might, being, was, and were. Now remember, anytime you see one of those, if you're trying to figure out if it is a helping or a linking verb, you need to see if there's an action verb right after. Let's look at the example. I should eat my broccoli. Well, the bolded word is the helping verb, and we know it's a helping verb because right after we have an action verb. So this helping verb is helping to say what needs to happen with this main verb, eat. Now a linking verb. A linking verb is a non-action verb. That means it's not something that can actually happen. Sometimes called a state of being verb, that connects the subject of a sentence to the predicate or to whatever comes after it. It will not be a verb. So, some linking verbs are seems, becomes, feels, appears, be, been, being, is, am, are, was, and were. So, for example, I am late. We have the subject I, we have the linking verb am, and then we have an adjective. And that linking verb, am, tells us that I goes with late because I am late. So remember, when you're trying to figure out if it's a helping verb or a linking verb, look at the word that comes next. Is the word that comes next a verb? That means you have a helping verb. Is the word that comes next a noun, pronoun, or adjective? That means you have a linking verb. So let's look at the sentences below, and we'll figure out whether the verb is an action or a linking verb. Is it an action? Is it something that can happen? Or is it linking the noun, the subject, with something, with an adjective, noun, or pronoun? So number one, we have to look at the bolded verb, and we have to say whether it is an action or if it's linking something to someone else. So basically what we're trying to figure out, is it a helping verb or is it an action verb? Or is it a linking verb? So number one, I will finish my homework. Well, we have the word will, and let's look at the word that comes right after it. I have the word finish. Well, finish is an action verb. It's something you do. You can say, I finish my homework, and it makes sense. So that means will is being used as a helping verb, because it's telling us that you will finish your homework in the future. Number two, I was tired. Well, we have the verb was, and let's look at what comes next. We have tired. Tired is an adjective, so it describes how you're feeling. You can't say, I tired. That doesn't make sense. So that means in this case, was is linking the subject I to the adjective tired. So that means it is a linking verb. Number three, we have I might be late to the party. We have the word be right after. So, excuse me, be is something that you can do. It is a verb. Even though it's not an action, it is a verb. We know that be is a verb because we're talking about was, is, are, all of those are forms of the verb be. That means you can say, you can say I am late to the party and it makes sense. So that means might be is the action, so might is being used as a helping verb. Number 4, I am so hot. Well, we have am, and if we look afterwards, we see so hot, which is an adjective. You can't say I so hot, so that means am is linking I to the adjective hot, so it is a linking verb. Number 5, it is an oven in here. If we look right after the word is, we have an oven. An oven is not a verb. It's also not an adjective, but remember, linking verbs can also link the subject to other nouns. So, is being used as a linking verb because it's connecting the subject it to an oven. An oven, remember, is not a verb. So if there's anything other than a verb after that bolded linking verb, that means it is a linking verb. Number 6, I should do my chores. We have the word do right after, which is a verb. It's something that you can do. You can say, I do my chores, so that means should is being used. It's helping the word do tell how it should happen, so it is a helping verb. Okay, now for the bottom. The first part says, now write 3 sentences of your own that include helping plus action verbs. So that means you need to come up with three sentences that have a helping verb. That means right after that helping verb, you need to have an action verb. So I will do one of each, and then you'll do the rest on your own. Make sure that you have a helping verb, one of those examples from, you can use one of the examples from the top of your anchor chart. Just make sure that you follow it with an action verb. So let's do, I'm going to pick one from here. Let's say, this is a good one. We will take a science test later. We have the verb will followed by the verb take, so that means will is helping take to be a helping verb. We will take a science test later. You can say, we take a science test, and it makes sense. You have to take off the later, otherwise it doesn't. But you can say, we take a science test, and it makes some sense. So make sure, go ahead and do number 2 and 3. Pause this video, do number 2 and 3. Make sure that you have a helping verb, which means right after that helping verb, you need to have another verb. For the bottom, it says last, write 3 sentences of your own that have linking verbs. That means you can pick a verb from the bottom of this anchor chart, but make sure that right after that verb there is no other verb. It either needs to be a noun or an adjective, or it can be a pronoun if you think you can do it. But go ahead, let's do some adjectives. So I'll do the first one, and then you do the other 2 on your own. So I am going to say, let's see, I'm going to pick the word feel from the bottom in the linking verbs. And I'm going to say, I feel happy. We have our linking verb, feel, and it is followed by an adjective, not a verb. That means it's linking the subject I with the word happy, not helping another verb to tell when or how or why or whatever something is happening. Now go ahead and turn to the back. So you're turning from the page with the monster to the back. And it should say page 84 at the bottom. We're going to do this page together as well. So read the top with me while I read out loud. A linking verb does not show action. It connects the subject to the rest of the sentence. Is, are, am, was, and were are often used as linking verbs. Some linking verbs link the subject to a noun in the predicate. Some linking verbs link the subject to an adjective in the predicate. They never link the subject to a verb. That would be a helping verb. So you're making sure that there is another noun or there is an adjective. So the directions say, complete each sentence by writing the correct linking verb on the line. Then underline the complete subject of the sentence. So what we have to do here is in these blanks, we have to figure out which linking verb. Is, are, am, was, or were fits. So that means we have to look at the subject. Is it singular or plural? And we have to look at the sentence and see if there's anything that's telling us when it happened. Is it happening now? Did it already happen? Or is there really not anything like that, in which case we would probably choose the present tense. So let's look at number 1. Our social studies project blank an interesting assignment. Well, there's nothing that tells us a time when it happened, so we can go ahead and put it in the present tense. So now we have to look at the subject to see if it is singular or plural. Well, we know that the subject is our social studies project. Our social studies project is singular, so that means we have to use the singular present tense of the verb be as our linking verb. So our social studies project is an interesting assignment. Let's go ahead and draw a line to show what part of the sentence is links the subject to. So we know the subject is our social studies project, and it links it to interesting assignment. Now number 2, I blank eager to get started on it. Again, there's nothing that tells us a time when it happens, so we can say that it's in the present tense. We know that the only present tense form of be that goes with I is am. I am eager to get started on it. We know the subject is I, so we're going to go ahead and underline that. And we know that it links us to the adjective eager, which means excited. Number 4, the Pawnee tribe blank the subject of my project. Well, we know that the Pawnee tribe is the subject of this sentence. It is, there's no words that tell us when it's happening, so we can say it's happening now. And the Pawnee tribe, even though there are a lot of people in the Pawnee tribe, we're only talking about one tribe, so that means it is singular. So the linking verb is has to go there because is linking the Pawnee tribe to the subject of my project. Number 4, Mystic Horse blank my favorite book last year. Well, we know the subject is Mystic Horse, so we're going to underline it again. Think about why they underlined it in the first place. And now we see the words last year. That tells us that this happened in the past. So we can't choose is, am, or are. We have to choose was or were. Mystic Horse is one book, so it's singular. So that means we have to choose the linking verb was. Mystic Horse was my favorite book last year. We can tell because Mystic Horse were my favorite book last year. It does not make sense. And the linking verb was links the book Mystic Horse with my favorite book. Number 5, the Pawnee Indians blank unfamiliar to me before I read that book. So, we have the subject, the Pawnee Indians. And we know this is going to be in the past tense because it says, before I read that book. That means that this person who's writing this has read it now, but in the past they had not read it. So we have to choose was or were. The Pawnee Indians is plural. We're talking about more than one. So we would say the Pawnee Indians were unfamiliar to me before I read that book. The linking verb were links the Pawnee Indians with the adjective unfamiliar. Number 6, they blank a group I want to learn more about now. Well, the word now tells us it's happening right now, so we have to use is, am, or are. The subject is they, which is plural, so that means we have to use the linking verb are to say they are a group I want to learn more about. The linking verb are is linking they with a group. They are a group. Number 7, the state of Nebraska blank the place the Pawnee lived long ago. So we have our subject, the state of Nebraska, and we have the words lived long ago, which means this happened in the past. The state of Nebraska is singular. There's only one state of Nebraska, so that means we have to use the linking verb was. The state of Nebraska was the place the Pawnee lived long ago. Was links the state of Nebraska with the place. The state of Nebraska was the place. Number 8, many books about the Pawnee blank in the school library. Well, we have our subject, many books about the Pawnee, and there's nothing that tells us when it happened, so we can say it's happening now. So now that means we have to use is, am, or are. Many books about the Pawnee is plural. We're talking about a group of books. So that means we have to say many books about the Pawnee are in the school library. Are links many books about the Pawnee within the school library. Number 9, the library blank so big that I can't always find what I need. Well, we have the subject, the library. There's nothing that tells us what time it happened, so we'll say it happened now. The library is singular, so that means we have to use is. The library is so big that I can't always find what I need. Is links the library with the adjective so big. The library is so big. Last one, number 10. Our librarian, Miss Cribble, blank helpful to students. Our subject is our librarian, Miss Cribble. That's who the sentence is about. We know that there's nothing that tells us it happened in the past, so that means we can say it happened now. Our librarian, Miss Cribble, is one person. So that means we have to say is, because our librarian, Miss Cribble, is helpful to students. And is links the subject, our librarian, to helpful. Our librarian, Miss Cribble, is helpful. Okay, make sure that you have written all of this, because in your independent practice, there is somewhere where you are going to have to show what the linking verb, what part of the predicate the linking verb connects the subject to. So now what I want you to do as soon as this video is over is go ahead and look at the independent practice. You're starting with the page that has 83 at the bottom, and the directions say to read each sentence, study the linking verbs in parentheses, and then write the form of the linking verb that correctly completes the sentence. So that means you're looking at, is it present or past tense? Is the subject singular or plural? So what you can do if you're not quite sure, read the sentence to yourself out loud with both words. You'll be able to tell if it just doesn't quite sound right. You need to match whether the subject is singular or plural, because it looks like everything else is already, you don't have to choose between present or past tense, but you do need to figure out, is the subject singular or is it plural? When you're done with that, turn to the back. It's the sheet that says tennis tantrum, and there are two parts to this. A, the first part, says the simple subject is underlined. So they've already got the subject underlined. Then you need to circle the linking verb and then underline the word in the predicate that the linking verb connects. So you're doing the same thing we did here. You're just underlining. They already have the subject underlined for you. You have to circle the linking verb, and then you're going to underline the part that the linking verb connects the subject to. And then B, part B, you have to underline the verb. Oh, I'm sorry. For section A, if you're confused about what to do, look at the example right here underneath these two people. That tells you exactly what to do. B says underline the verb in each sentence. Then you have to figure out if that underlined verb is a linking verb or if it's an action verb. If it's a linking verb, you have to shade the tennis ball. That means color in the tennis ball. You can use colored pencil if you like. You can use your regular pencil. If it is an action verb, I don't think there are any helping verbs, but check for that. You never know. If it is an action verb, do not shade the tennis ball. So you have to think, is this something that I can actually do? Or is it one of these linking verbs, which means it's not something I can actually do, it's something that just is. Okay, so pay close attention. Is it an action? Is it something that you could do? Or is it showing what someone is or something like that? Look at that list on your anchor chart. Also, look at the list in your notes of different words that can be linking verbs. And then look at the list here on the guided practice. Okay, go ahead. If you have any questions about this, go ahead and Skype me or FaceTime me between 1 and 5 this afternoon. Please go ahead and work on your independent practice now so that you can work on your homework or anything like that later.